War field stabilized. Want to turn up the heat? We gotta move.
Wings of Liberty is over, guys. So this is going to be kind of a, I guess, a callback to everything that happened throughout the course of the game, from the beta till this last couple of weeks. So starting things off, Artosis, what are some of your fondest memories of Wings of Liberty?
Well, just the fact that it came out was probably my fondest memory, because it's hard to make a living off of StarCraft 1, man. That's some difficult stuff. So I remember the moment the beta came out. I was like asleep in Korea, and my friend texted me and let me know. So the day the beta came out for Wings of Liberty was like the happiest moment ever, because finally StarCraft 2 is here.
It's pretty remarkable if you think about it. The kind of everyone on this cast, none of us would actually be making money. We probably wouldn't know each other right now.
Well,
to think that a game has actually like done all of that. I guess you and Jeff would know each other, Dan, from Brood War.
yeah.
But
Yeah, we would still know each other fine. Like,
other than that,
we'd probably
man,
still be grinding StarCraft 1 together
Yep.
in Ventrilo.
Yep.
I would still live in my mom's attic or something like that. Like,
Yep.
So actually, for Jeff and I, not too much would have changed, I
Nope.
guess. But
I guess that's true. I guess that's true. For me, it definitely StarCraft 2 obviously changed everything. I think Apollo probably for you, huh?
That's right, more so than these two guys. I mean, I met Dan because I went to Korea in the first place for StarCraft 2. I was already kind of friends, but I went there for the second time, where we become a lot closer for StarCraft 2. And likewise for Jeff, I met at StarCraft 2 tournaments as well for the first time, so definitely.
Yeah.
And you, JP.
Apollo would actually probably still be winning world championships if Wings of Liberty hadn't come out. So,
so actually, this has been bad for his life and his career.
Poor Apollo. Poor Apollo.
it's like you could just like that, like woo, go back in time to like if Wings of Liberty never came out. Apollo's like
Apollo's just sitting on a golden somewhere.
just do it, like British Nike commercials, and it's Apollo like 17th-time world champion of Command and Conquer. I've earned more money than Fatality 3 times over. And then we go to like present day. He's got a sock on his microphone.
Oh God, Jeff, what about you? What are some of your favorite Wings of Liberty memories?
You know what? I'm going to take liberty with this, because I'm going to go with what Dan said. Even just when the game came out, I actually remember when some of these Tomcats started rolling out with the early Wings of Liberty. Like, I didn't actually get the beta as early as a lot of these other guys did. And I remember watching Nazgul stream and being glued to my computer, absolutely like face pressed up against, like, it's so beautiful, everything's so amazing, you know, and it was just an event. It was amazing, because our game that hadn't been touched in 10 years was all of a sudden getting a complete facelift. So that was kind of the most amazing initial moment. But then I got to say, probably one of my most favorite Wings Liberty moments was, I mean, there's been a lot, but one of my favorites is actually picking myself up and sending myself to Korea to go get a shot at GSL. I came with one game shy, which was cool enough because it was like a fun experience that way. But sharing a bed with Greg Idra Fields for a week was amazing. Showering in his bathroom, in a Korean bathroom, which is like just a normal bathroom, but then there's a hose hanging out of the wall, and you just kind of spray yourself with that. I like that. And then I got to do a twofer on that one, and the second half of that was hanging out with my good buddy Artosis and his his lady, and that was awesome too. We watched movies every night and ate pizza and played a lot of StarCraft. That was the best part, was playing StarCraft. Was Dan and I would just rotate, and then I'd play and he'd tell me why that was wrong, and then he'd play and I'd just chuckle, and we would do that back and forth for a while.
It was good times.
Yeah.
Going back to when, I guess when StarCraft was announced, Dan, were you at the announcement thing in Seoul?
No, actually, Tasteless was there. I was watching it on the internet though. So
Yeah, I think did everyone Apollo? I guess you were the only one that I might question. Did you watch the StarCraft 2 announcement?
I didn't.
See, how did I know that you wouldn't have watched it?
I did, and I remember didn't like the internet go down.
Nada was on the front page of Yahoo. Yahoo.com is
Yeah.
still really popular and powerful, and Nada was front page, and we were like, "Oh, StarCraft's getting big."
Yeah. I remember the video we watched was a recording of the people live at the place, and I
Yeah.
remember the roar of the crowd when, hell, it's about time. And I was like, wow! Just like this monstrous roar came out of the crowd. And I remember getting the sickest, as Dan would call them, nerd chills, but for me it was like rolling goosebumps because it was just it was a magical moment.
It was crazy during the beta too. When I was in Korea alongside Dan, there was so much advertising for the game too. There was buses that were just covered in StarCraft Wings of Liberty and the release date, and buildings even in the middle of the city. So it was.
In
crazy.
Gangnam, man.
Yeah.
Didn't they have like an entire
It's crazy.
wall of one of the buildings with the StarCraft 2?
Yeah.
I remember
And
seeing
it
a lot
was
of
like
photos of
one
that.
that you, the song that now the whole world knows, the Gangnam Style, right? The main part that he's basically singing about, like a building, an entire side of a building that you
Yeah.
could see from anywhere on that street, was completely covered with like a Terran Marine. It was pretty magical.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about, Wings of Liberty has gone through some pretty crazy patches throughout its lifetime. For you guys, what were some of the, I guess, funniest patch changes to have occurred since the beginning of the game? Well, we'll start with Apollo.
The funniest. I don't know. So maybe someone else can start. Let me think.
Well, how about the bunker changes, man? Like, I remember Jeff and I having some laughs over that when every single patch had a new
Yeah, that
bunker
was so
change,
weird.
and like the one of my most memorable StarCraft jokes. I think you said it, Jeff, where you were talking about like interest on bunkers and stuff because the way they were changing the value of like recycling them. That oh god, but
Wasn't that
it was
when we
the bunker
trolled-
economy.
Yeah, didn't we troll Greetorp with that?
Troll Greetorp. It was either me or Tyler.
It was
that
you and
said it
Tyler,
first.
I think. It was a
Yeah.
tag team troll.
Greetorp, man. I actually just watched. Someone linked me to that video, and I watched it again, and it was like, I love that the camera's below Greetorp's face, and he's got this like serious like chipmunk look, and he's like, wait, what are you saying? No, it's fine. It should be
That's
fine. Yeah.
kinda-
The question that tipped it over is when we're like, do you think bunkers are still viable? And he's like, yeah, of course they are.
That
That's
was
so
pretty good.
funny.
That was
Oh,
pretty
God.
good.
As far as patches that were funny, it's almost like it's one way to look at this is almost the things that they changed that was funny. I remember when Colossus used to move and shoot
Yeah.
for like 3 days. That was hilarious, and they had more damage output. So for 3 days, it was ridiculous. If you thought Colossus Wars were bad now, I liked that the other one is the warp gate originally took. What was that?
Like
30
30
seconds?
It was.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
I remember like when I found that out, it was pretty bad, man. Like Smuffed would just send a probe in your base and just make 3 pylons, and you just die unless you did the same thing.
Well,
And
that
then it would be like you have one more probe on top of a ramp, and like God, it was so funny.
Well, that was the funny part. Actually, was it was during that time, and Greg still accuses you of this. He's like, he was playing Protoss, and you tugged him away from it. But I remember the ladder was the most hilarious thing because every Protoss at that time had a probe in the other guy's base, dropping like 3, 4,
Yeah.
5 pounds, and then there was the warp in. But who was like? It was the stupidest PvP series in the world.
Yeah. The
But-
PvPs were so terribly bad, and someone would have to go attack, and like then they wouldn't have the concave, and oh my god.
But that's what we have to thank for Idra not being a Protoss player, because I remember if you think Greg gets mad now, you try to imagine game after game after game of him refusing to put pylons in his opponent's base because it wasn't a macro game, but constantly getting the pylons put in his base. Pylons getting built. He's like, "Arr! You think you're good? You idiot! You're all about.
Remember the Phoenix changes where like the Phoenix, we were like trying to explain like how to make the Phoenix like a more microable unit, and then just suddenly one day the Phoenix just like runs around and shoots without stopping. And we still have that stuff. And
Yeah.
thank God that change happened, because now we have these mutas that are even faster. So imagine if we didn't have that right now. Holy crap.
I
I
think
had a lot of frustration in the early days as well with didn't concussive shells never used to be an upgrade? Didn't
Yeah.
Marauders just used
Oh.
to start with that?
yeah.
They just started
And then they
with
just
that,
come
yeah.
at you and you just couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yep, their build would literally be like, make one barracks with a tech lab, and then proceed to like quadruple command center.
Wasn't that like the Cathan Luck build or something like that? Then I remember him. Did he beat you, Dan? Because I remember we did a MLG show.
Well, I was
Showmatch
Zerg
series.
JP, so yeah.
Oh,
everybody.
that's right. You were Zerg back then.
Yeah, so
you got to talk about
no,
map
I-
changes too.
you guys want to talk about Reapers for a moment?
Yeah.
Anyone remember what Reapers were like against Zerg? Oh my
Dude, they
god.
were
Hold
so
on.
good.
Dan, I just remembered my first interaction with you ever was when I had you play a show match against Louder, in
Yeah.
which
And he showed me how quick Warp
Yeah,
Gate was.
and I
was like,
think- was that
that
it?
was literally, that day was the first time that I saw. That was like right exactly when people figured out Warp Gate took like 1 second to research. And he
Yep.
just was like, I'm like, how do you have all these zealots in my base? All I have is Zerglings. Oh, it was so painful, man.
I remember that series because I remember the game on Kulos Ravine, which I think was the final game, and that was that a 1-2 or something like that. That was so long ago. I don't even remember what the score was between the two of you guys.
I think
but
he 3-1 me or something. I don't know.
that was the first interaction. We played that all live. That was a ton of fun because I don't even think that you responded. I was like, "Hey, Artosis, thanks for playing." You were gone after that. You didn't even.
You set me up. You knew about this Warp Gate stuff.
Oh yeah. I'm the tactician, or I knew everything about StarCraft back
Him
then.
and Huck.
Let's talk about for a moment though one supply roaches. If
Yeah,
we could.
we have to.
I think that's
Oh
just the
my
go-to
God.
moment.
One supply, 2 armor.
Yeah. I remember every game against Protoss, I would just max out on roaches, and I'd have so many they couldn't even all fire. It was impossible because they only had 3 range back then. But it doesn't matter because it's like endless. It's just infinity roaches. Like you'd go them against Terran. Like Marines and Marauders couldn't hold up against these things.
And then didn't
I-
borrow movement used to be faster too? They used to be able to borrow and
did
move a
they?
lot faster too. I'm pretty sure.
Well, I knew that they regenerated health.
Well,
off
the thing
that.
is, you didn't need to burrow them because they killed everything. So I don't really remember.
My
But,
favorite was the 1 week that lasted, where they would literally be like in mid battle, they just kind of they'd be like, wait a second, your army's only like 150 supply, and then they'd burrow, and you'd shoot at them, but they'd heal so fast that it
Yeah.
wasn't actually doing damage.
No, I
and
remember people were going Psystorm against me, and I would burrow, and they'd storm it, and nothing would happen to the roaches. They just sit there and heal as quickly as the storm, and I'm like, cool, all right.
It was a weird panicky feeling as a Protoss, because you were just like, they won't die, and you're just like, and they're just like, ha 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 ha. They're healing as they come after you. It sucks, man.
What was the roach change that happened right before one of the MLGs that Idra was attending, and everyone was like, "Well, Idra just won the tournament after that."
Their range
Plus
went
one
up.
range.
That was the
Yep.
+1 range. That's right. How did Idra win that tournament? I forgot actually
No.
what happened.
Yes,
Did he?
He did?
MLG DC or whatever it was. Yeah.
Poor Greg. He'll always have an asterisk next to that win.
Yeah, he brings it up. He's cool with it. That's the one joke Greg will make a year. Is he'll be like, well, some of the changes are okay.
I guess, was the Roach like the #1 changed unit over the course of Wings of Liberty? At least in the beginning it was. The bunker was probably the most changed, though, I would guess.
Yeah.
At least that's what we talked about the most here on State of the Game.
Yeah, no, the bunker was changed by far the most. Terran upgrade times were changed a lot, I recall. I mean, they gave like a few changes to stalkers and stuff, and yeah,
It's hard to
Roach got
say.
a lot of changes.
Roach got a
Void
lot of
Raid's also
changes.
got quite a few.
Oh, you know what? No, Infestor's got the most changes. Let's stop being stupid, okay? Like, I remember being a Zerg before they did anything to the Infestor when no one used Infestors yet, and I would literally go on top of the ledge in Kulas Ravine and just mind control or what neural parasite mules and just walk them away because it was only 50 energy and they started with it. Oh my god, it was so unbelievably imbalanced. But
You mind controlled mules?
yeah, because it was 50 energy. I had like 10 infestors. I just take all your stuff and run it away. It was like silly.
I knew Dan was making this story up as soon as he started saying he made infestors way back in the day, because that was the funniest thing, was that literally every single Zerg went roaches into Hydralis, into Corruptors, into how do you kill Colossus Void Ray? and then like,
Which you could not, by the way. You could not do.
no,
Like,
of course not with that army.
no.
And then I remember literally like Zergs just like, and then people started to make infestors, and they were like, all right. That's fine. Stop it. It's okay. The game's fine. Everyone move away. Game's cool. And then at every single infestor change, like, it would be really funny if someone took the time to do this. You'd go back through state of the game every time they changed the infestor, and usually we had a Zerg guest on.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say who it would be every single time. Usually Idra did, but he would be like, "Well, now you can't make infestors. I don't know what we're supposed to do." It'd be really funny to have that monologue with the backdrop of like the Zergs at the tail end of Wings of Liberty when the infestor was as nerfed down as it possibly could be, and they're just crushing it.
Yeah.
Apollo, I think you wanted to bring up the maps that we've seen over the
Dude,
course
maps.
of Wings of
Bad
Liberty.
memories.
Oh boy. Like
Bad
Shattered
memories.
Temple with the cliff above the natural.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, Thor drops. Oh, they're
Thor
coming back
drop.
to me
Oh
now.
yeah, Thor drop.
Just putting a Thor in a medevac and sitting on that ledge, and I have like 4 spines I try to run up and burrow. Luckily back then they burrowed so quickly that they like just slid underground, man. It
I
was
remember
like,
watching your games, Dan, on Blistering Sands, like Zerg versus Protoss trying to defend a 4-gate, and your spine just run to the back, then to the front, then to the
Yep.
back, to
oh
the
my
front.
god.
You know
That was every game.
the most fun I ever had was making people play Desert Oasis in the MLG show match series back then. Because
You know what it was like trying to
people were
stop
so
aliens on that map with Zerglings? Do you have any idea how painful that was? Like, I was ready to play one base Zerg on that map. That's how bad that map was.
You had to.
Yeah.
I remember as a Protoss, the game was ridiculous past the 4-gate, but I didn't know what that looked like because everyone 4-gated because the Zerg had to expand and their base was like 10 miles away from the ramp, so you're just like, okay, I'll be going up that ramp now.
I'm sure there was sort of one base Mutalist players back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
Pretty sure
base
there
Mutas. But
What
then
else?
you get smartasses that went for like Vikings. Like just opened Vikings and they're just like
Yeah.
going Vikings and you're like, what? I have like 4 or 5 mutas with +1 researching for some reason because I'm dumb and like they have 6 Vikings and 3 Marines underneath them and you just can't do anything. Oh god.
Some of the other maps, Kulos Ravine definitely comes to mind, especially Idra versus Nazgul there at
Yeah.
one of the MLGs. I think that's probably the quintessential match played on Kulos.
I don't know. I always think of Fruit Dealer versus Top, man. When the Ultras
is that
had that
the
bug
Ultralists?
where...
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right.
Remember that bug with Ultras where whatever they attacked, they gave splash all around it? So like he'd be
Oh.
preparing a planetary and just all the SCVs would blow up because Ultras were attacking it.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Fruit Dealer just smiles all the way to the bank.
I forgot it was Top that he beat. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that season? Was that
One.
season 1?
That's season 1 right there, man.
Oh man,
The Fruit Dealer himself.
the fruit
Yeah.
dealer. What is he up to these days?
Lol, coach. Next subject.
I see. I see.
Talking about Fruit Dealer, Scrap Station as well was one
Oh,
of the
Scrap
Oh,
Station,
that
that
map.
map.
that he
Oh
played.
my gosh. Don't even get me started on Cloaked Banshees on Scrap Station, man.
Oh, that was so funny casting that back then.
That,
So it's just
you know
like,
what?
well,
I can't blame that map too much because as weird and bad as it was, and that was the map I lost that final GSL qualifying game, but I actually won a lot of my games on that map too, but they were also the weirdest games ever. Just the weirdest ever. I remember my MLG game that I beat. What was that Root Zerg's name from Montreal?
Slush?
Slush.
Slush, yes. He was the other guy in the group who, if he would have won that best of 3, he would have advanced from the group number 1, and I probably never would have got my top 4. But we played our final game on that map, and it was such a weird, like, individual Void Rays doing battle over here, and there's like 3 Zealots fighting over here, and he took the gold as his second hatchery, which obviously doesn't make any sense, but it kind of worked for a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember after that game, he like came over and he's like, strange game, right? I was like, yeah, it was a pretty weird game. I was like, okay, good game. Yeah, really weird. Yeah.
Everything about that sounds pretty weird.
Well, I thought that was every game on that map ever, man. It was just a weird map.
You guys remember Incineration Zone?
Oh,
with the one
yeah.
force field chokes and the like third base that could tank your opponent's natural or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Was that used in tournaments ever?
Maybe like one or something. I don't really remember, but it was like I thumbs downed it pretty quickly.
Yeah, that was such a bad map.
That was a bad map. And
We
we
had
had
one base failing against Terran on that map. That's what I remember about it.
oh god, the Demaga build. Steps of War, man.
Yeah,
oh,
classic
Steps of War. How did man? I just totally. I guess I blocked these maps out of my mind or something from all the way back then. So
I remember because I was
them.
quite close, obviously being from England to Muslim as well, when we used to practice together and play together. And I remember one day when he was sending me replays saying, how do I stop a 4-gate? And he'd have like 8 bunkers on his natural and still couldn't hold it back then. And the amount of, Terran versus Terran tanks underneath the natural. Terran versus anything. People used to proxy barracks, lift it up, and then just siege underneath your natural all the time and put bunkers around.
Can you imagine pre-Infestor days trying to use Roach Baneling against Terran on that map? Like, they would put siege tanks in their natural, and you think that's defensive, but it like covers half the map. So they would push with siege tanks there, so you literally can't kill it.
Yeah.
You like try to drop like roaches on them or something, but they have Marines. Oh my god, that map was so. That was so difficult.
That's like how the first couple of tournaments were won. I mean, the first one was the Interstream Masters with the Reapers, with Idra versus Morrow, and then the second big tournament was like DreamHack Winter between Mana and Nama, when it was like Steps of War, Delta Quadrant maps, and it was literally bunker rushes with tanks, with Marines, with turrets, with SCVs, anything and everything.
Well, that's
and
Nama playing, so I mean, I don't know what that has to.
Did Templar still have Warp in Storm at that time?
Yes, they did.
That's right.
Amulet. Wow.
So I don't know.
Kadar and Amulet, yeah.
I don't know if I have too much sympathy then for.
No, that is true. Like that was funny times. Like you couldn't lose a base back then if you tried.
Yeah.
You'd leave a Nexus, and they'd bring
the
the dropship, and you'd make a pylon, and you'd still defend it with that pylon. It takes working your High Templars and Zealots and kill everything. It was so silly.
Oh, God.
I think that hurt less though than what oftentimes happened is they'd kill the base because the Protoss couldn't be bothered, like their army's just so out of position. But they'd warp in like 3 Templar and just absolutely annihilate the army that's attacking this otherwise useless expansion that the probes are already gone from. They're like, cool, a base, want, storm, and then they're just like, I don't know how that actually lasted for a while too. That's the funny part. Like I feel like Protoss shouldn't have lost a single game in that period of time. But
no, they probably
big
should have.
complaints from Protoss too. They really didn't want to see that go back then.
Oh, that's right.
Well, thank God it
big
went.
complaints.
Oh my God. Imagine warping in High Templars with.
It was overpowered. It was overpowered.
Trying to think back in terms of other maps, there was Delta Quadrant. I think Apollo.
That was just kind of stupid. That one.
I lost a torch on that game or on that map one time. I can't remember what it was for, but it was one of those things where like I kept finding bases, and then as I found his last base, surprise, maxed out battle cruisers, and I was like, "What is this? Oh my god!" He played such a strange brand of StarCraft, man.
That wasn't right at the start, though, was it? That was a little bit later on.
That was a little bit later on. That was a couple months
that was in
into
the 2-base StarCraft 2 periods.
Yeah, it was
when
still
people
year
got
one,
past
though.
1 base. Yeah.
What were there any other maps there? So Kula, Steps of War, Desert Oasis, Shattered Temple, the first one.
Close spawns.
Well, how about Lost Temple?
Lost
that
Temple,
existed too.
Yeah.
The era of close spawns. There was that
Oh God.
jungle basin map that was kind of weird.
Jungle Base.
Jungle Basin.
Oh my God.
What does that map even look like? I gotta bring that up.
It's the one where
map.
the third base for Terran cuts the entire map up.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I
That
remember
was
sitting in
rough.
Greg's little apartment in Korea watching him play Korean after Korean after Korean on that map, and every time the Koreans were doing like what Dan would later call the like I build everything build, or like the Swiss Army knife or something like that. Like a Banshee would show up, then Hellions would show up, and then a little squad of Marines and a little squad of that. And eventually, after Greg survived all that, he'd push out and take his third, and then his overlords would let him know that he's like 3 base Zerg versus 6 base Terran, and he'd just be like, "Stupid, I hate this dude." Like, just leave.
Yeah, that was a pretty bad map. I'm glad these maps are gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
The maps now are pretty good. I mean, I
They're
remember
pretty good.
They're,
Yeah,
we've
I
just seen
remember-
them for so long. Like, I want some new ones. That's the only thing.
Daybreak.
Yeah.
I played a lot of games on Daybreak, guys. I don't know about you guys.
You know
I
what
think
though?
we've
Like,
watched a lot of games on.
I got to draw a line somewhere because the maps we're talking about were so bad that ladder was like two out of 6 unplayable, or
Yeah.
we still had close spawn on all those other maps. We still had the Protoss jackasses that would be like triple pylon in the base of every ramp on every map ever because they just wanted those ladder points. But now we're in a world where close spawn is a little bit less common. They have that neutral rocks or depot. Yes, Daybreak's been around forever, but I feel like it's heading in the right direction by a long shot.
Yeah.
It's true.
Sure.
It's true. In terms of the different strategies, would you guys, is it a fair statement to say 4-Gate is the most talked about strategy from the Wings of Liberty era?
Well, PvP was so broken for so long that maybe it was, but other than that, the
Come on,
4-Gates were really.
You could 4-Gate
Broodlord
every
Investor.
matchup.
Yeah, but once they fix the core, I think the most talked about strategy is Broodlord Infestor, to be
Really?
honest. Like, that
Yeah.
thing has been around for a while now, and it's like every matchup kind of. So I think that's actually most talked about over the
Absolutely.
4-Gate bit.
Absolutely. I mean, people talk about the Ultralist like it's a novelty in Wings of Liberty. It's like, oh wow, he went, guys, get over here. He went Ultralist. This is crazy. That's weird. Oh, it didn't work. He's back to Broodlord Infestor. He went right back to it. He's gonna win this game anyways. Yeah, like 4-Gate. I think 4-Gate over the stretch of time is certainly the build that like has remained relatively the same throughout the whole thing. You put a pylon at the base of the ramp. You try to get them up on top of the ramp. Like that concept has been there forever. But I think if you want to talk about the most dominant, like absolutely Zergs do this and absolutely it works, it's Broodlord Infestor. You're not seeing in Wings of Liberty tournaments right now, minute 28, and the guy's like, oh, he switched to Hydralisk. Off his Roach Ling build. Yeah, no, it doesn't happen that way. They always go Broodlord Infestor.
Paulo, you have any
have to
comments on the
agree.
builds?
I agree with what Jeff said. Just that 4-Gate was the thing that everyone saw in the beginning of time, but the most used, most successful to the end of Wings of Liberty, which we're approaching, is definitely Broodlord Infestor across all 3 races.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. Tournament-wise, do you guys have a favorite tournament that you maybe always think back to and say, oh, you guys remember when, or anything like that?
I think there's like a lot of those actually. There's
Yeah.
there's like GSL Season 1, I think everyone that was around at that time will remember fondly for the rest of time because of like the imbalances that were in the game and how it turned out. And like, I guess for me, the European Championships in WCS was a pretty
That one was pretty
amazing.
awesome, yeah.
Like, that was maybe the best production we've had for a tournament of that type ever. And like,
Agreed.
the hype was there. The games were so quality. I guess those are 2 that really, really pop up in my mind. And other than that, maybe like there's a couple GSLs that are like, whoa, this season, oh my god, MVP.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. I guess
And the GSL finals at BlizzCon too. Oh my god, that
those
was
are
like,
pretty crazy, man.
That
That
was
was one of the
amazing,
most
yeah.
memorable things that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then the biggest throw of all time, like where on Shakir's plateau, I remember Nesty's like, what if I just made 40 Broodlords and attack moved him
Well, that was in the BlizzCon finals, wasn't it?
and then tried to reload? Yeah, it was the worst. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah. That was a
That,
weird
map,
cast.
that map was BS though. That ghost mech was actually
Yeah.
unbeatable on that map. So I don't.
That was
Yeah.
a really weird cast. Because first of all, I said Sean about 100 times. Second of all,
I remember
video
that
was good.
highlight video. It was really good.
Yeah, the highlight. Go check the highlight video out. It's pretty funny.
Sean.
I don't know why.
Sean.
I don't know why I was saying his name so much, but that match was
What's his
just so
name?
weird to cast because it ended and we were just like, well, we had to try to phrase it so Nesty. It didn't sound like Nesty threw the game, but
Yeah.
that's what it looked like. In terms of
Well, that's like Nesty's MO. If he doesn't win,
Yeah.
then he makes it look bad.
I'm not letting you get satisfaction from this.
Yeah, there you go. He's like, I clearly wasn't in shape at that time.
he makes it so the story is, well, Nesty threw instead of MVP won or something like that. It's true.
Something like that.
In terms of, I guess, events that I was kind of involved with, the MLG Anaheim last year where we had the cusp of players, that was pretty awesome to be able to produce that and kind of walk the players out. I guess I'll always remember that. But in terms of overall events, I think, Dan, you kind of hit the nail on the head when you mentioned WCS Europe, because that was it's pretty awesome.
I agree with WCS Europe. That was so good. It
was good.
There's a lot of good games, but for me, doing a lot of DreamHack stuff is somehow, some way, their finals are always memorable. You know, you have Hero winning in that massive arena. You have Thorzane winning in front of his home crowd in Stockholm. And for all the tournaments I've been to, and that's quite a few now, is DreamHack seem to always have this kind of magical ending which sticks with everybody. And I think more so for the people that were there. Even for the people that thought they enjoyed it online, if you were actually there, that's something you aren't going to forget very easily.
That's true. DreamHack has never really had a bad final. You guys have gotten lucky.
Hero murdering Tasia was pretty.
Yeah, that
yeah.
wasn't so great. There's been a few bad ones, like some of the more early ones before we had like really top end players I didn't really care for. But I mean, in the past year, DreamHack has been
It's been awesome for sure.
it's been tip top.
Hero Tasia was upsetting to me too because it was like I was actually nervous about casting that because it was such an amazing audience and DreamHack has so much prestige. And but then by the time I calmed down and I was like, okay. And I started casting pretty okay. It was the last game on Antigua Shipyard, and I was like, that was a murder, actually. Thank you for that 15 minutes of casting with Apollo. I appreciate it. That was fun.
Oh, God. I'm trying to think back to some of the other GSLs and which one were...
Oh, maybe we should talk about the Blizzard Cup too. You got to talk about MMA against Dharma Guride.
That's true.
That's like one of the biggest memories. The 3-0 for MMA into 3-3, and then the final game with Shakiris.
That final game was so close to, oh my God, what a series. I'm getting chills actually again right now. Even remember it, I swear to God. Like, that was one of the best series ever. It was like, it reminded me of the Great Brood War series, you know?
That was one of the most... sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
Well, the GSL finals, I think that was our first really actually good GSL finals. And then after that, they were all sick. But before that, it was like a bunch of one-sided, like kind of crappy stuff.
Yeah.
It was like, why can't we have the round of 4 in the finals? That was the ongoing joke.
Yep.
But like, that one like changed everything. And like, that was... God, that match was good. Like, people need to go watch DRG MMA Blizzard Cup Finals again because, I mean, again, chills just went through my body.
It was so good.
So that was the one tournament that it was 3-0, and I was like, it's just going to be another 4-0, man. It's not
You
gonna
turned
be,
it off.
It's not going to be a fun tournament.
People did. I remember those posts.
And I went to sleep because it was 4 a.m. And I woke up the next day.
You best up, JP.
I opened up Reddit, and I was just,
No, it was the most epic stuff ever, man. Like,
another funny thing about GSL, kind of the evolution of GSL, was like, I look at the groups now and I look at the level of play now, and a lot of people kind of forget. But if you compare it to the beginning of GSL, where it was like 2 out of 3 casts from Tastosis was like Nick going, "Well, guys, I don't know what to say. This is actually really bad. This is actually this is actually bad. This player is actually terrible. He's actually a bad player." And
we had some jobbers in there.
Dan on the forums would be like, "Look, guys, when they're that bad, I don't know what I'm supposed to say. All right, if they want to be upset, that's fine. I don't care." But if they're playing, it's like, and you know, to their credit, a lot of the games they were actually quite bad, which is weird because it was like the foremost, you know. Even then, it was the foremost league, but now you look at these groups because I, you know, I mean, as an EG guy, I had to take a close look, but we're like, All right, what group does Stefano got? Who? Oh, geez. Ouch, that's tough. All right, let's look at Huck's group. Ooh. Oh god. Oh my god. That's really bad. And then but it was that way all the time. You looked at every one of the groups and you were just like, "Oh, nobody stands any chance at all." Wow. Life partying in the same group, man. I mean, think about that. It's just disgusting.
Yeah.
That's true.
No, nowadays the play has risen so much that I remember casting those terrible games, like especially for a bit there before we got Code A casters in GSL, and I was like casting the dumbest Terrans in the entire world running into each other's siege tanks.
Just bit by bit.
It's like
Is bit by bit the dumbest Terran?
Well, he was the worst, but I don't think he was the dumbest. He was doing it in a strategy, but he was the worst.
He's probably the only player to have like a meme start from him. At least a negative meme.
He was the fact that he won any games was like a disgusting shock to like how unprepared people were back then. But
oh man,
but no, it's I don't know. The game quality has gone up so dramatically, especially this last.
It really has.
I want to say 8 months to a year.
Yeah.
The games have been like people have figured stuff out. These games look fantastic, like all the time. Any tournament I've gone to in the world, there's been no shortage of like amazing top level games. Whereas back in 2011, the early 2011 when I started travel casting some of the stuff that wasn't GSL, it was like, ooh, noticeably these guys don't study enough of like the Korean players or something. But nowadays it's like. You can watch any region. You're like, oh, these guys know their stuff.
Yeah.
Remember casting people that didn't know that wasn't a base spot, so they'd go scout that base, and during the cast, they're like, well, I guess it just doesn't know that. That doesn't happen anymore. You know what I mean? Like every match you watch now, everybody knows, and that's indicative of the fact that the pro gaming houses are real. I mean, I think Kespa's been the kick in the pants that a lot of people needed. Like, oh shoot.
Yeah.
We got to step this up, and I think that's what's going on across the board. Not to necessarily give all credit to Kespa, but I just think that they were the final puzzle piece that came in where people were like, okay, this is as high as it goes, and if I want to be anything in this world, I need to give everything I got. So those kind of mistakes don't happen anymore. The level of professionalism is a lot higher.
No, that's true. It's great to see.
I think just the level of everything, in the past. I think 8 months is a good judge of time. Has just it was kind of all along the same line, and then it just skyrocketed. Where production level, game quality, caster level, everything just went from being like a solid line just to skyrocketing all the way up. And the past 8 months of Wings of Liberty have definitely been awesome.
That's actually true, man. Like, and that's about everything. Every production now is kick-ass. All the players are kick-ass. And now the commentators are finally good. For the first longest time in StarCraft 2, I had to mute almost every single stream because I was like, "Oh, did you even play this game?" Like. But nowadays, everyone's so on top of things, and which is funny because now we're going to switch over to Heart of the Swarm, and no one has any idea what we're really doing in this quite yet.
Yeah.
Production-wise, it's worth noting too that like what our standard for a StarCraft 2 tournament is nowadays is so different from what it used to be. It's really funny. Like I know MLG gets a lot of crap, but I'm sorry, they're probably deserving of it. I remember the first MLG like walking in and like it was the main floor consoles, and then there was like this blanket you had to pull aside, and in there was the StarCraft 2 stage.
Yeah.
It was so weird.
There's a lot of people, but there was no benches. I remember that weird thing. I was like, so where do I watch this? And they're like, oh, it's on the big screen. And I was like, we all just kind of like do we get sleeping bags? Do we get pillows? And that's what we do.
I mean, I watched that internally go from that to what it is today, and that was it was pretty. It was something to watch StarCraft take over a console league like MLG used to be, and now for it to be I would almost go as far as to say it's a PC league now. I mean, it's got 2 huge PC titles and still has its console roots in there, but the main events are definitely the 2 PC titles there. So that was an interesting thing to watch.
To talk again about the production thing, the most eye-opening moment for me, production-wise, is actually, in StarCraft 1, all we had was WCG. That was it. And I was fortunate enough to make it to 2 World Finals, and I remember at both of them, I just, like, looked at the stage and, like, the production and how beautiful it was, and just tears would flow down my face because I was so happy that esports was so great and all that. And then after casting StarCraft 2 events for a while, I actually did WCG 2011. And when I went down there, I looked at it, I'm like, this is garbage. What? This looks terrible compared to everything else I've been to this year. And that was,
to be fair,
that was a shock. I was like, oh my god, this is what I used to literally live for. And now,
to be fair though, WCG, like,
used to be
you just did the life history. Like, it's like going into your grandfather's early. He was a young 25-year-old buck and being like, wow, he's a spry, handsome young man. And then, like, on his deathbed, you were like, you're not doing so well.
No, I know. I'm just
You're not that handsome.
Still, it was quite a shock to see that.
Yeah.
Just to see how much it actually has grown, because I mean, all of us have been to those, and now to see, like, especially, like, some of these big productions in Korea, whether it's OGN or GOM, or if it's like WCS Europe, it's like, oh my god, this is better than a sporting event, any sporting event. This is insane.
Yeah.
I like the transformation too of what StarCraft has done for us personally. I mean, talk about, like, going across the board here, Artosis, Apollo, myself, JP, like, I remember going to StarCraft tournaments where we were still advertisements for whatever was sponsoring that tournament. They didn't give a crap. That was most of the WCGs. They were like,
That's true, yeah.
faceless guy that plays too much games. Come here, please. You're going to stand here. Hold this. Hold this. You're taking a picture with it. I don't care. I don't give a crap. I don't care. And then and now, could you imagine? And I'm making a joke of it, obviously, but that stuff did happen. Could you imagine someone, like, tugging Artosis over, like, hold this box of Kraft macaroni. Now smile at that camera. Yeah. Dan would be like, no, I'm not going to. I have a brand. I have people representing me. I have I have an empire, a global empire.
I like
on the
Velveeta,
internet.
so
yeah. Well, there you go. But I think it's one of the messages I always try to put out there is how thankful I am for what this game has done for me, because I've slept at Dan's house in Korea. I've spent time with Sean here in frickin' Sweden, which is, an amazing part of the world. Both places I probably would never go without StarCraft. Mm-hmm. And now I'm sitting on a show talking about the release of the second installment for something that has helped me out amazingly. I live a really good life because of what StarCraft has done and how successful it's been.
Yeah, in StarCraft 1, I got one trip outside of USA. In StarCraft 2, I've almost filled 3 passports with stamps.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. I have been all over the world now, and it is what a life-changing.
There's a lot of other
everyone,
people
man.
that have changed.
Yeah, imagine MC, man. He's got, like, a phone book full of stamps.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the players here as we're kind of winding down. To speak on MC, do you remember the first match that you ever casted of MC, Dan?
He lost in GSL, really, like, first round. I'm trying to remember who he lost to, because I remember him and Genius were supposed to win. Like, they were the best 2 players in Korea, basically. Like, they were these unstoppable Protoss juggernauts. And literally, I remember when Genius lost, like, all the pro gamers were like, yeah! They were, like, clapping and stuff, and when MC, like, didn't make it to, it was basically more of the same, where it's like, well, these guys are too good. Like, thank God no one can beat them. I don't know how this happened, but yeah, man, MC, like, boy, oh boy, didn't he keep it going, man. That guy, how much money has he won? Like, he's going to hit 400K soon. I'm just waiting till he's won $1 million. When he's won $1 million, I'm throwing a party for him.
MC is at 355.
Oh my God.
So much.
That's pretty insane.
And he deserves every single dime.
He does, yeah.
Easily.
He's won.
He has flown the most miles, for sure.
Well, there's that, but he's also won at periods of time when, I mean, Protoss to this day is the least won race in terms of overall money, and all the money we owe to MC. Like, he actually won all of it. But then also, he's a guy who kind of gets it, which is pretty amazing to watch. He doesn't just win. He will do the interviews. He will do, like, he's a character. He has fun. And in doing that, he makes this game a richer experience, not just by winning and kind of silently going back to his grass hut in Korea or something like that, which I don't know why I said that, actually. I'm not sure what joke I'm trying to get at, but he's always been a character. He's always been one of the most fun players to watch, not only for his skill, but also for who he is.
And that shows with his fan base too, that people follow him no matter what. It's not a lie that he has been through rougher times in terms of results, but even in one of the toughest GSLs to date, the most recent one, he's still in 2013, the last Protoss remaining. And then on top of everything you said too, Jeff, just the personality he is. It's a reason why people tune in to watch StarCraft is because of people like MC.
Yeah.
This is a pretty remarkable thing to look at. Over the course of Wings of Liberty, 14 players have made $100,000 or more just from winnings.
It's insane.
5 of them over 200,000 or more, and 2 of them over 300,000 or more.
Wow.
Which, I mean, that's...
And they're all on LGIM.
Yep.
Pretty much.
MC,
Pretty much.
MVP, Nesty, Stefano, DRG, Lenok, Marine King. I like how the 14th highest earning player is still Fruit Dealer.
Well,
Well,
it's pretty nice when you win
ridiculous.
$100,000 in one tournament.
Yeah.
That's his total earnings 100,000, 1,675.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Good for him.
He
That's
won the
awesome.
first one. Yeah, I mean,
He won the first one.
and he was
did.
great.
Yeah.
He was great. He was fun to
He was a
watch.
fantastic Zerg, man. He was.
Yeah.
I think
Too bad he didn't get on.
I think when you mention Wings of Liberty, you have to mention the player MVP. I think over the course of the
He is the
entire
king of
game,
wings.
he's probably the best one.
Yeah.
The overall
I
player,
think
he probably
you have-
wins.
And it's funny because MC has won like more tournaments and more money, but
He's not MVP.
MVP was in like how many GSL finals? Like 6?
Yeah.
Something
He's
like
won
that.
4, and he's been in 6 of them. And the ones he lost, he definitely could have won and should have won one of them. And it's like, Andy's flown around and won tournaments, and like the thing is, GSL is such a different level than these other events. So like, I don't think anyone would argue, even MC himself, that the King of Wings has to be MVP.
King
with
of Wings. I like that.
Yeah, with MC being second place. That's
I'd agree.
it's MVP, man.
I would be hard pressed to hear someone
Well,
say something different.
So that's a Protoss and a Terran. Who's the Zerg?
Well,
Go on,
I
Dan.
mean,
Say it, Dan.
Yeah, I think we
well,
know Dan's
Dan.
no, I
choice.
mean, Nesty's up there, but you gotta give props to DRG as well. You gotta give.
Yeah.
I think Life hasn't
Life
been
this
around
past
long enough to
year.
give him as many.
Yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
true.
So I mean, DRG and Nesty are really the two long-standing Zergs. Nesty for the first half, DRG for the second half. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's a swarm mine. It's fine. You can be two.
What would you do for we said 3 Koreans. What would you do for 3 foreigners, 3 different races? Who would be the 3 that you'd pick?
Stefano Zerg.
Yeah,
Stefano's
you have to choose Stefano. I guess
Thorzane?
Thorzane's a good pick. I mean, for Protoss,
Foreigner Terrence has been notoriously kind of
and
lacking, so I
Have
guess
to
he
be
would say-
Naniwa, right?
Huck, Nanoa, and Mana all have good claims, right? I mean, those 3. Mana's actually won more money than Huck and Nanoa, right? I'm
He has. Yeah.
99% sure about that. He's like the 3rd winningest Protoss in the world. Like,
Mana's
you gotta,
15th overall. He's the 2nd highest foreigner.
yeah, after Stefano. So I
When
mean,
you just said those
Mana's
3,
up
I would have just said Naniwa, Huck up the top, but now you say that
Well,
about
the thing
Mana.
is, yeah, Mana's won a lot, but
He's quieter.
Huck and Nanoa have done it in Korea more, even though
You know-
Mana didn't do poorly in Korea.
You know what's funny
Yeah,
about
that's-
mentioning that, though, is it's like, even as we describe who we think might be the best Protoss foreigner, we talk about personality, like, because as far as I'm concerned, Mana has been the most consistent, always a really good tournament threat, whereas Naniwa has had some tournaments where you're like, well, this is the best Protoss play this year, like it's absolutely amazing. But then another tournament where it's like, I don't think he knows how to play PvZ, and the same thing could be said about Huck, who has
Yeah.
some tournaments where you're like, wow, he actually has the sickest micro, and I remember back when we used to tease him about that. But then he'll have another run of tournaments where you're like, I'm wondering
Yeah.
what he does with his time. Like where did he come up with that idea? And Actually, I'll tell you to be honest with me, the worst experience with watching Huck is how much criticism he gets for 8 gates, but then seeing him fail in 8 gate. Then you're like, oh no, I can just hear the forums already. It was like,
Yeah.
last
Or when
year.
he doesn't morph one of the 8 gates and still wins. Yeah,
Yeah.
that one too.
Yeah.
That was it. Well, when that I can't remember who the Zerg was, but when he went down that ramp, I was like, "What
Sniper, man.
are you?"
Oh, it
thinking?
was Sniper,
yeah,
yeah.
Sniper, like one of the best Zergs on the planet. He's like, this guy seems to be on all gateway units. He's not really leaving the base of my ramp. I don't like being a child about this. We're gonna do battle. Let's do this. Let's go down the ramp. 25 zealots, 3 stalkers, 3 sentries. Like, it's only designed to work if you go down the ramp. In any other scenario, it doesn't work. But Sniper's like, I don't want him to fail at this moment. So,
What other foreign Terrans do we have? Is it like literally just Thorzane? Like,
So let me look at the earnings here real quick.
is there anyone that you could put
Lucifron.
up there?
Lucifron, you can argue because he was like
Yeah.
one of the, if not the best Terran in the early days.
but he's
and then
another
had a
shows up and wins the tournament, or
You have to give it to Thorzane though, because Thorzane
Yeah, I think you do.
like was the one that showed that you actually can beat Protoss and you can beat MC. You remember that? One of the best matches ever, MC Thorzane TSL.
What about Koss? Koss is do you mention Koss?
You can't mention him next to
mention him?
Thorzane. All right, Thorzane won. All right, I don't
Thorzane
think
won.
the more I go over in my brain, I'm like, foreigner Terran has to be Thorzane. Like, there's just
Thorzane was a part of that TSL that was absolutely magical too. Like
Yeah.
that his series against MC is going to go down as one of my
That's true.
favorite of all time.
it's one of the best for
It's
sure.
definitely one of the
And
best.
his series against Naniwa was great too. I mean, it was
Yeah.
looking like it was going to be a thumping. Then Naniwa made a little comeback, and then, whoops.
yeah, Thorzane, definitely.
You know, I was looking up what was Naniwa's run through MLG Dallas? Was that a 25-1
It was 24.
He
wasn't
didn't
it?
lose a game until Kiwikaki
until the finals? Yeah, that
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll ever be. I don't know if that'll ever be beaten. If that type of run could ever happen
it
again.
won't be, but at the same time,
It
there were
probably
no Koreans
shouldn't
in
be.
the event, so
Yeah,
It's-
That
it's a
kind of
different
run
thing
is
we're
unique.
measuring.
That
It was
Yeah.
26-2.
26
Yeah.
and 2.
But to be honest, we talked a lot about how StarCraft 2, especially, well, I guess Heart of the Swarm can be a little bit different, but I don't think it will. But with the level of StarCraft that we're seeing being played, I don't think 26-2 will ever come
that's
around
what I'm
again.
saying. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
100%.
Even though Heart of the Swarm is kind of new, but it's still this, it's still very too much similar to Wings of Liberty. I don't
Absolutely.
think it's going to happen.
Yeah, there was a period in time in Wings of Liberty where some people just figured things out ahead of everybody else, and then it was just
Yeah.
absolutely dominant. It was just ridiculous. But I think you'll have a certain effect of that, but on a much smaller scale in Heart of the Swarm. Like, there'll be a weird PvP composition that at exactly this part of the game, it is the winning strategy, and the other guy won't know that. So you'll watch a bunch of Void Rays kill stalkers, and then you'll be like, oh, okay, well that
that's
looks
actually what it is. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so we're getting close to running out of time here. I want to go across the panel real quick, and someone mentions to you Wings of Liberty, I don't know, 5-10 years from now, and you immediately respond, I remember when. What's your answer? We'll start with Apollo. Again, just to put
say
him
it
on the
again.
spot.
Say it
So
again.
it's 5 or 10 years from now, someone asks you, I remember when in Wings of Liberty. What's your answer? What do you remember what do you take away from the Wings of Liberty era of StarCraft 2?
The Wings of Liberty era. Wasn't gonna say era, but one of the things that we didn't even speak about today was my first American tournament, and I can see me going to a future American tournament because I go to a few. Someone coming up to me and goes, "Can you remember that time in Wings of Liberty when Kiwikaki used the mothership and double vortex for the first time in
dude.
an international tournament?"
I was there.
And I will be like, "Yes, I was there. It was amazing. The crowd just exploded."
Yeah.
They, all stood up and were on their feet applauding. And, if that happens, I would be like, yes, I do remember. And yes, it was very, very magical.
I remember that so much because I was in the audience doing my classic, like Dan and I have done this on Ventrilo 1,000 times over, where it's like, no, that guy's dead. He's over. Like, he's actually wasting time. He should just get out of the game. And then, he started to micro a little bit. Mamacor's, kind of cloaking him, so he's, winning battles where he's got 1/3 the supply. And then I started getting a little bit quieter. And then the vortex dropped, and everyone, including myself, was like, I don't care how wrong I was. Holy cow! It was amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
That was a crazy, crazy moment for me in StarCraft.
What event was that so people can look it up?
IPL 3, Kiwikaki versus Stefano.
That's right.
The Atlantic City one.
That's
Yeah.
right. All right, Dan, what's your I remember when moment?
BlizzCon GSL Finals. The standing ovation from the crowd was
That was
something
pretty awesome,
that,
yeah.
like, in my final moments before my brain is transferred to my robot body because my regular body's dying. That will be my final thoughts and my flesh.
I want to be the guy that receives the order for Dan's robotic body. It's like, all right, we got our standard old cyborg. Doesn't eat meat. Who's this guy, huh? Needs a reinforced buttocks because it sits all day. And I don't know why I put this order in, but he wants the nose a little bit longer than most people.
Oh god. Oh god. The GSL finals at BlizzCon is definitely an awesome moment. I was there in the front row and got to watch that entire thing, so that was sick. Jeff, what's your I remember moment?
You know, I kind of always talk about it, so I feel like a broken record, but it's the honest answer, and Sean actually already touched on this, but Thorzane's win at DreamHack Stockholm, and just kind of the culmination of, like, that was a tournament that was hitting its stride in every regard, like production, commentating, the games were amazing.
That was the new level of DreamHack right there.
That was the new level. It was a foreigner beating a Korean, so that storyline was absolutely remarkable. I'll always remember that. I actually, like I said, I had the best seat in the house. I was able to stand on that stage and feel the entire crowd around me. Yeah. Thorzane came out completely exasperated but excited and like beyond himself. And he's a guy who's like, he'll show emotion. He's not quite unemotive, but he's pretty even keel. But in that tournament, he was shaking. He couldn't really say his words because he was so excited and so happy. And I got to witness a guy win in front of a home crowd against all odds, and that was like that's the best story you could ever ask for.
I don't know about you guys, but every couple of months I do load that video up, and just the song and the crowd.
Everything was perfect for
me,
that,
my
man.
voice breaking as I scream his name.
Yeah.
You know, it's just all combined together. It was.
I think
I admit I've watched it quite a few times myself. It's a motivational thing.
It's funny, what I take away most from that video, what I remember most from watching Thorzane win, is that zoom in on Jeff when he's just nodding his head.
Yeah.
That's the number one image that I will always relate to that moment. And that's awesome. That's awesome. I guess for me, I remember when, this is probably something that a lot of people won't even remember, but I forget what MLG it was, but it was introducing, it was first off choosing White Raw versus Drewby to be played on stage. It was second off introducing White Raw to the stage. And that crowd, that was the one moment. Alarm goes off.
Sick ringtone.
Thank you.
What a JP.
Thank you. That was the one moment where I like knew.
Thunder!
That was what the crowd sounded like, Joe.
Yeah. I remember that tournament because that's the power of a guy who's charismatic, almost pretty accidentally, by the way. I'm going to break away from this for a second and then come back to it because we just have to identify something. White Raw is an amazing guy, but he's actually like, he's the product of his own legend, essentially. People are like, there's people who have wallpapers that say something like, first when attack, always make sure defense and then feel a force within yourself. And like, it just doesn't make sense. But people are like, oh, White Raw said that. Yeah, I'm going to black and white picture of him, okay? And then that line next to it, yeah, now I'm going to go and get that accounting job. White Raw, like, but I remember that tournament, everyone's, like, the storyline was, and the MLG commentators are my favorite too because they have the broadcaster voice. They'd be like, and White Raw hasn't slept in 46 hours. He's actually on an incredible run right now. And White Raw would be like, hey, everyone. They cut to him, and the crowd's like, frickin' White Raw. I love that guy. Let's root for him really good because he's tired. And then he actually ended up losing at the end of the night. And that's the other funny part about StarCraft crowds is they're pretty, like, quickly move on. He, like, lost. I'm like, all right, White Raw. Okay.
Yep.
Who's next? Who's playing? Who's that? Oh, yeah, Naniwa. I like Naniwa. Naniwa's good too. Let's root for Naniwa.
All right. Well, I think that about does it for Wings of Liberty. So, Heart of the Swarm, it's coming out soon. Hopefully, maybe 2 or 3 years from now, we sit down and we do the very same thing we just did with. I guess any closing words, guys. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I can see us all sitting down again then. and it's going to be like the same conversation, like, wow, look at that, MC won another $355,000. He was in $200 of the same amount from Wings of Liberty. I don't know how he does it. It's crazy.
Oh man. I guess any final words, Apollo or Jeff? We got Dan.
I look forward to that day, guys. I look forward to that day in a couple of years' time when we go into Legacy of the Voids and we sit in Skype once again and we do this. I think it'll be quite good.
Well, hopefully it's not Skype. Hopefully some new technology is out.
It'll never happen.
It'll never happen.
Skype.
Jeff, any closing
We
words?
can use FaceTime, JP. How do you like that?
You know, I too hope that day comes. I guess if I were to sign off on Wings of Liberty, I would be remiss if I said anything other than thank you, and thank you to everyone that made that so magical. Like we give a tough time to Sundance and MLG for not having chairs, but look where we are now. You know, look where MLG is now. Look who he's talking to. Look at the attention StarCraft's getting. We give a hard time to the audiences and to the fans for some of the dumb things they say, but if it weren't for them, none of us would be doing this. Like, Dan would still have his headset taped to his face. I would be working at some mall job, playing StarCraft entirely too much, foregoing my college education or anything like that. And Apollo would be playing way worse games. So you've actually saved... I mean, that's one... I mean, look at that face. You've saved him from a horrible, successful career as a world champion at... But every aspect of it, just thank you. And you know what? At the end of the day, thank you to Blizzard, too, because
absolutely,
StarCraft fans are some of the hardest fans to make happy, as they would probably tell you absolutely. But I thought they've done a pretty darn good job of trying their best to do just that, and I think we can all be pretty proud of where StarCraft is and has gone and what it's come from.
I think that's a good way to close this out. So thank you, everyone. We will see you guys in Heart of the Swarm. This has been State of the Game. See you guys later.
No fans clock over here, folks.
Gotta say is it's an honor to play you Tealer, and let's give the audience the show of a lifetime.
Oh. Yeah, apparently looks like I was wearing lipstick, by the way. I can't confirm or deny that.
Like literally, like, hey Sean, so what's gonna be the first segment? Like, who's sponsoring? And I was just like,